put out, and the last survivor was pulled from the rubble, and the Murrah building was demolished a few weeks later. You know, this tree is all that remained in this empty field. And no one really was sure what the fate of it would be. They didn't know if they were going to have to remove it because of, you know, the criminal trial that would coming up, because this tree actually contained pieces of evidence, bombing materials and pieces of the building. But they left it there. But what they did was they trimmed the tree all the way back. They took out all the branches and they just left the trunk. And if you can look at the picture behind me, that's the survivor tree. And you can kind of see the Y shape that it makes. I'll kind of move my head so you can see that right there. But that's what it looked like. It was just that Y shape for an entire year. And it sat there all summer, all fall, all winter. And on the 1-year anniversary of the bombing, April 19th, 1996, people gathered right around that tree, just like you can see in that photograph behind me. They were people that had lost loved ones. They were rescue workers. They were civic leaders. It was really anyone who wanted to remember what they had lost from a year ago. And when they looked up that day, they noticed something for the very first time. They noticed 2 blossoms right at the tips of the Y up there. They represented new life. It was a new hope. That's when they knew that it was a survivor too. So the people there that day decided that they needed to do everything they could to help save the tree. So they called the top forester in the state of Oklahoma, Mark Bays. And Mark Bays said, if you want to, you know, save this tree, you have to protect the way that it gets what it needs to grow. And I think everybody knows that, you know, a tree gets what it needs to grow from its roots. So we know that, you know, roots are very powerful and they're very strong. And today, if you ever do get a chance to walk around, the base of that tree underneath is completely hollow because Mark Bays and a lot of other people helped design a pier system underneath to protect the roots of that tree. Now, for some reason, for me, I've always found a certain solace in the presence of trees. There's something about their strength, their immovability, and their sense that whatever thoughts I'm entertaining, I know these silent centennials have witnessed so much more than I have. That feeling that the world existed before and it will carry on long after I'm gone. Now, I'd like to think that I've seen a lot in my life, but I know no matter what I've seen, this tree has seen so much more. We know from the pages of history that this tree used to be in someone's backyard. Children used to play right underneath this tree because there used to be a home here. This street was lined with homes, as a matter of fact. But things change. Families move away. Homes get torn down and new buildings get built. This tree saw all of that. Oklahoma became a state. Storms passed. The streets of Oklahoma City became busier and busier. This tree saw it all. The Murrah building was constructed and finished in 1977. Thousands of federal employees went to work for the next 18 years, serving millions of Americans. This tree saw it all. It saw the yellow Ryder truck pull up into the loading zone on the north side of the building. It absorbed the explosion. But it also saw people gather on that 1-year anniversary and all the anniversaries since. It has seen all the storms that have passed since then. And has greeted visitors from around the world. And today, this tree is seeing you, and it might only be virtually, but it's not the tree itself that's important. It's the story of the tree. And that's the story you need to know. That story today has become part of you. Together, it is part of our shared story now, part of our history. Whether you are alive or not, whether you've been to the memorial 1,000 times or maybe you're planning your first trip, No matter what you know about this site, you have become part of our story, and we've become part of ours, and I'm part of yours. Now, the story of the survivor tree is one of resilience and adversity. It's a story of change through time and elements. It can be hard to see what changes day to day in a story like this, because a tree takes a long time to grow, of course. But the next element I'm going to talk about is that chain link fence outside the 903 gate. That chain link fence was put up just a few hours after that bomb went off, and it was needed to keep people away from the crime scene and to protect the evidence within the boundaries. People could come right up to the chain link fence and gaze at what was left of the building and all the activities going on inside, all the rescue workers. People standing on the fence soon turned into people leaving items on the fence. They left things that they thought would help the rescue workers. Cases of bottled water, extra work boots, rain gear, food, anything to help others out. And then the people working the scene started to notice something else. They started to see notes of encouragement and support. Of course, this led to other things being left. Slowly, that turned into flowers, stuffed animals, keychains, hats, t-shirts, wreaths. Parts of the fence were so full, you couldn't even see all the way through it. These personal items were left behind from those who were moved by the compassion that they witnessed. So what started out as a protective barrier for the crime scene became the very first symbol of support and hope for the bombing. The section of fence that remains today sits on that 903 side of the memorial, that healing side of the memorial. And I also like to point out that it wasn't part of the architect's original design for the memorial, but it meant so much to the people of Oklahoma City that they incorporated it. And it changes every day. When I walk by it, I always see something new. I always find a new object that I can connect with personally. It's usually an object from my past, a toy, a photograph, a token from a place that I've visited before, maybe even a handwritten note to a lost loved one. But this daily exercise reminds me that another person took the time to leave something behind that another person might find comfort in. The fence reminds us that we are never alone, no matter what side of it we're on. And I'm out of time, but I'm going to turn it back over to Ranger Larry.
Thank you, Dan. One of my favorite places on the memorial is the children's area that you can see on the map there. That's just outside the entrance to the Memorial Museum. The children's area has a really neat story to it. After the bombing occurred, there were kids from all over Oklahoma City, all over Oklahoma, and all over the United States who wanted to try to make a difference and try to help. I often will call this area the area of helping hands. And the reason for that is if you look at that wall there in the picture, you see what looks like a kind of a patchwork quilt of designs. Those are actually ceramic tiles. And the story behind that is this. After the bombing, school kids across the United States began to send cards and letters to Oklahoma City in support of the rescue workers to try to encourage them, to try to lift them up, and to try to let them know that they appreciated them and they were thinking of them. And if you think about it, it was those rescue workers who really did a lot to try to help here. Some of them would be changed forever. We talk about those kinds of people here at the memorial, those who were changed forever. Those kids sent in cards and letters, but some of them began to do something a little different. They began to make ceramic tiles. On some of those tiles, they made handprints, their handprints. Some of those tiles have flags on them, some have rainbows, some have USA, but a lot of them have hearts or even broken hearts. And they have messages telling the rescue workers that they appreciate them, that they're happy that they were there and that they are thinking of them, that they're praying for them. Some of the tiles are patriotic, but most of them are just simply words of encouragement and support. And then right there in front of that wall that you can see in the photograph, there are big dark places in the pavement. Those are big pieces of slate. And if you look over on the far left-hand side of that wall, you'll see a red wooden box. And in that box is sidewalk chalk. If you ever get a chance to come to the memorial, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to that red box and take out a piece of sidewalk chalk and then go to those big pieces of slate, like where that lady is standing. And I want you to write on that piece of slate your own words of hope and encouragement for those who were changed forever here and for maybe somebody you know. One of the neat things about the Oklahoma City National Memorial is that you can leave your mark on the memorial. When I lead school groups at the gates of time, I often will tell them to take their hand and dip it in the reflecting pool, and then to put their hand up on one of the gate, whichever one we're closest to at the time, and leave it there for a little while. Sometimes if it's a cold day, I'll tease them and tell them they have to leave it there until their hand freezes, but I don't do that. When they pull their hand away, they can see that their handprint is there, and it stays there for quite some time. That's one of the ways that they can make a mark on the memorial. But another way is right here in the children's area. You can leave a message of hope and support and encouragement, not only for the people who were here on that day, but for anybody who may see that. So there are two ways that you can make your mark on the memorial. But what's really neat about the symbolism of this memorial, and the word memorial means to remember, but one of the neat things is that the memorial will also make a mark on you. When you come to the Oklahoma City National Memorial, tour the museum, you walk through the symbolic memorial on the grounds, I promise you, it is going to change you, and it will leave a mark on you. Not necessarily a bad one, but a good one. Here's what you can do. Once you have left the memorial, once you have left our virtual tour here today, I want you to think about somebody who maybe has been through a 902 moment. Maybe somebody you know at school who may be having a hard time. Maybe somebody who's been bullied. Maybe somebody who just needs a word of encouragement and support. You can go to that person, send them a text, an email. Maybe when this pandemic is finally over and we don't have to worry about social distancing, you can walk up to them and give them a hug or a high five or a fist bump and let them know that you're thinking about them. And when you do that, you will then make your mark on them. I hope that you will do that at some point. And that's one of the neat things about this memorial and about the children's area. Thank you for listening to me today. And I'm going to turn it on over now to Ranger Mary.
Thank you, Ranger Larry. I had to find the unmute button. I want to talk to you all today about the Rescuer's Orchard. The children that Ranger Larry just talked about were inspired to write those letters, draw those pictures, send in those tiles, because of all the hard work of the first responders and the rescuers that came here the day of the bombing, the days after, the weeks after. The Rescuer's Orchard, as you can see outlined in the picture, sits where two other buildings and a parking lot used to sit. One building, the Oklahoma Water Resources Board building, where two of the people who have chairs in the field that Ranger Haley talked about, where they were at. The Athenian building sat kind of in between the two yellow squares there. One person inside the Athenian building has a chair in the field. And then the parking lot that surrounded the survivor tree sits where the rest of the Rescuer's Orchard is located. The rescue workers came from all over the United States. Of course, the immediate first responders were from right here in Oklahoma City and in the state of Oklahoma. But it wasn't long before a call went out to rescue workers and first responders from all over to come here and help. They knew that the number of people that would be needed to help get people out of the building, to help recover evidence, would be more than what we had right here. We had first responders from local police departments and fire stations, local hospitals. We had federal agencies like the FBI that came and investigated, collecting evidence. The doctors and nurses that helped, of course, their main focus were on the people that were being rescued from the building, those that were injured, whose names are now on the survivor wall that Ranger Haley talked about. And then there were other people who had no special training. Everyday ordinary citizens like you and me that just wanted to help in some way. People that, maybe they could donate boots, they could donate bottled water, they could cook a meal, provide a shower. People that just wanted to help. They knew that there were others in need and that there was something they could do. And we do include the children as part of those rescue workers and those first responders, because what they did in writing those letters, drawing those pictures, sending in those cards, was an encouragement to the police officers, the firefighters, the doctors and nurses, the survivors, the victims' family members. They were able to encourage them through messages of hope by telling them that they were doing a good job and just to keep going. And some even said that they were their heroes. And so when we think about rescue workers, first responders, like Ranger Larry told you afterwards, you can find somebody who needs a word of encouragement. I encourage you to think about those local police officers, those police stations, those fire stations, maybe your doctor, or the nurses and doctors and paramedics that work in local hospitals. And you might just send them a letter, send them a card to encourage them because of all the hard work that they do and the special training that they have in order to help. All of the elements that we've talked about today that you can see on the map here, flip the page, are all one large memorial. They're all symbols that come together to create the memorial. And there's one special place on the memorial grounds where if you stand on either side, you can see everything reflected. I'm talking, of course, about the reflecting pool that sits where Northwest 5th Street was once located, right in the middle of the memorial. And if you take a look here in this picture of the reflecting pool, you might even see some of the elements of the memorial reflected in it. You can see the gates of time, the trees that surround the footprint of the Murrah building, that field of empty chairs. If you were able to stand on the sidewalk next to the reflecting pool, you would see the chairs. You'd see the rescuer's orchard and the survivor tree. And if you've had an opportunity to visit the memorial, or maybe you will in the future, if you step right up to the edge of the reflecting pool and look down, you'll see a reflection of yourself. When the memorial was created, people wanted to make sure that everyone who visited took time to reflect, to think about what they do in life and how it affects other people, their family, their friends, coworkers, classmates. And so one of the things that we encourage people to do is to take a moment, have a seat on a bench, maybe just stand in the shade and think about the other people in our lives and how our actions and our words have affected them. Because what we say and what we do does make a difference in the lives of other people. We can never go about our lives and have it only affect us. Someone else will always be affected by a choice that we make. The memorial sits here as proof of that. Choices that were made are the reason we have this memorial. We took something tragic, something horrible that happened in 1995 and turned it into a place of hope, a place of peace, a place of love and care, a place where we respect each other, and a place where others can come, learn our story, have a better understanding of how actions affect others and what we can do to make a difference for the better of others. At this memorial, we come to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those who were changed forever. The Field of Empty Chairs honors those who were killed. The survivor wall and the survivor tree honor those who survived. The entire memorial is a place that honors those who were changed forever. I know I can speak for each of the rangers here today and the others that work at the memorial, that working here has changed our lives. We are part of that group that was changed forever. And each visitor that comes to the memorial, whether it's in person or virtually, has also been changed forever by learning the story and reflecting on the impact that it has had. I want to tell you about one more thing that that Lynn spoke about at the very beginning. She talked about a very special anniversary edition of our Junior Ranger book. And if you're not familiar with the Junior Ranger program, you can find a Junior Ranger program at nearly all the National Park Service sites throughout the country. There are 419, so there are a lot of different books and a lot of different places you can learn about. This year, for the 25th anniversary, we wanted to create something special. And so we created a special 25th anniversary Junior Ranger book that is just going to be available throughout the year 2020. And we also, you can see a picture of what the badges look like there on the screen. You can visit our website, which is nps.gov/OKCI to find the book. It's a digital download currently. We will have actual hard copies of the book available once everything is over and we're able to open back up. But at this time, it's a digital download. You can click on just the title, 25th Anniversary Junior Ranger Book, download the PDF file. It's fillable so that you can just type in your answers, save it, and email it to the email address towards the bottom of the screen, mary_collins@nps.gov. That's my email address. You send it to me. One of the Rangers in our office will check it over and we will send you that 25th Anniversary Junior Ranger badge. One other thing that I want to tell you about, the memorialmuseum.com website for the memorial has all kinds of great activities that you can do for the rest of your school year, or if you are looking for some great summer activities before we're able to get out and about and enjoy being outside and around other people. And maybe before you plan that visit to the memorial, you can check out a virtual Hope Trunk. You can take another guided tour of the memorial. You can look at different other webinars and things that have taken place over time. I want to encourage you to do the Junior Ranger book. I look forward to seeing some of those come to my email account so that I can take a look at them and send that badge out to you. I promise that you'll learn even more about the memorial and this important event in the history of our country. At this time, I'll turn it back over to Lynn Porter.
Thank you, Mary, and thanks to all the Rangers today. We do have some time for question and answer, so if you have any questions, feel free to send those to us. I do have a quick question. I'm not sure who wants to answer it. How many, of course, the design that you see today of the Outdoor Symbolic Memorial is the one that was chosen, but how many designs were sent in before this one was selected? And can you tell us a little bit about that process or when the memorial opened?
Any other Rangers want to field that one?
All you, Mary.
Thanks. So there were 624 different designs sent in. There was an international competition held, and there were designs as simple as could be, as incorporating a statue and different things, to how elaborate you can see in the picture on the screen, just how intricate the design of the memorial is and how detailed it is. And we just told you about the symbolism. Every single thing on the memorial grounds represents something. And the amazing thing to me, when I hear about other competitions for a monument, a memorial, even buildings, when those competitions take place, even when the final design is chosen, people still want to make changes. They still want to tweak things and, oh, well, let's make this a little taller, a little smaller, a little different. That really didn't happen here. When it all the voting and everything was done, it was a unanimous decision that chose this design that you see pictured. And to me, that's amazing. That's incredible, because that just doesn't happen. There really weren't many changes, really any changes that were made, except for the choice of trees that would be represented and used in the rescuer's orchard. And that just came down to the actual type of tree that was used, not where they were going to be placed or what they would represent. And so to me, that's absolutely amazing, that the beautiful design that you see in front of you was chosen unanimously out of 624 designs sent from around the world to represent what happened here and to symbolize the different groups of people.
Thank you, Mary. And we do have a couple questions. So we do have the question, do you have a photo of the survivor tree 25 years ago? How small was it? I do know that there's some photos on the memorialmuseum.com. And I think there's a section that has the survivor tree. And so there is, let me try to find that for you, but we do have that online, I believe. We actually have a picture that shows the survivor tree when it was by a house in the backyard. We have another question. What is the meaning of the numbers on the fence, K606, etc.? I think if we go back to that picture, it might be memorial bibs for the Memorial Marathon, but I'm not sure if we can go back to that.
That's what that is. Those are race bibs, but I don't think they're from the. Yeah, they are. They have the survivor tree on them. Those are race bibs from the Memorial Marathon.
Yeah, so we do hold an annual memorial marathon. It's held the last Sunday in April, and it has over 25,000 people that join. We had to postpone it this year till October 4th, but there is a kids race for kids through 6th grade that can join. We also have a half marathon, and a marathon relay. A 5K, so a lot of different races, and if you aren't a runner, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities. So again, that will be October 4th, and you can go to look up Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon to get more information on that. And let's see, we think we have when was the memorial completed? So Mary, did you want to answer that, or did you want me to?
I can answer it really quick. The memorial was completed and open to the public on the 5th anniversary, so the April 19th in 2000. And the museum followed the following January in 2001 when it was dedicated and opened on President's Day.
Great. Okay, so I think there's some of that, and also really quickly, the just for the Memorial Museum, how was it that they created that and thought about the museum? Who was all part of that in creating the memorial mission? And if you can say a little bit about that.
So there was a committee of about 300 people in the beginning that would come together in smaller committees to work on different parts of it. But the people that were part of that committee were survivors, victims' family members, representatives of the groups of first responders, and community members from around the area. Were all part of that large committee. And then, like I said, they broke down into smaller committees to work on the different aspects of things, such as the memorial mission statement. And so a smaller group of people worked very hard to come up with a one statement that would represent how everybody felt and what the purpose of the memorial would be.
Thank you. And just thinking, one thing there, I know that there was one small change to the memorial design. The fence, in the beginning, the fence was not a part of the design. Can you tell us what happened there?
Ranger Dan, do you want to talk about that?
Let's get that off mute. Yeah, I kind of briefly talked about that, but that fence was added, of course, later. Hans and Tori, that was not part of those were the architects, not part of their original design. But because the fence was really the first memorial, it meant so much to the people that they incorporated it. So there's a section of it, of course, the chain link fence used to surround the entire boundary of where the Murrah building used to be, and around the Murrah building, so people couldn't even get close to it. But they added it because of what it really meant, the symbolism that it took on. It became a place where people could leave all kinds of things behind. They could leave behind, of course, supplies that were essential, those work boots, those bottles of water, food, anything like that. But it could also be a place where people could leave, flowers and wreaths and things that we associate with, a difficult time. So again, because it was the first memorial and because of what it meant to the people of Oklahoma City, it was added in. And like I mentioned before, it's an ever-changing thing. It changes every single day. And I didn't mention this when I talked about it, but something that I think is just wonderful is that everything that goes up on that fence goes into the memorial's archives. And I've gotten to go down into the archives quite a few times, and the objects that are down there will really take your breath away. Some of the things that have been left on the fence. So again, it was added because of what it meant. And that was that memory of people who started to leave things originally.
Thank you. And just talking about the items left on the fence, that people just wanted to show their support right after the bombing, making sure that people knew that they weren't alone and going through it together. And that was part of what became known as the Oklahoma Standard, service, honor, and kindness, that people just helped in any way they could to let people know that they were there for them and supported them. So we do have information, oklahomastandard.com, that you can look some ways that you can become involved in your community. Just like in the kids area, you have this chalkboard. You see people outside, since thanking their first responders, or writing, drawing pictures of, telling, hey, have a great day, neighbor. And just so you can put notes of encouragement. Kids can go out, do that. So a lot of wonderful ways, writing the letters to nurses, doctors, first responders, thanking them for all their help during this current crisis. Lots of ways to be involved. So you can look again on the website, memorialmuseum.com, for just more information about the Outdoor Symbolic Memorial. Also, if we can put up on the screen again the link, that the website that you can go to get the Junior Ranger book. Again, that's a 25th anniversary special edition, so it's available this year of 2020. And you get that wonderful badge if you finish all the activities in it and send it. And we certainly hope that when the museum and the memorial reopen, that you'll come visit this and really get to see everything in person. But in the meantime, again, go to the mps.gov/OKCI or memorialmuseum.com for more information. Do we have any more questions or anything before we leave? Let me just check one moment here. Okay, not seeing those here. So, and how many rangers do we have on site?
Typically, there'll be 1 or 2 rangers depending on the day and the weather, on site from 8:30 to 5, 7 days a week when we're open.
Okay, so if people do come, then we are able to, you guys are able, when we do reopen, you are on site. So if they have any specific questions, they can ask you that. Now, will there be any programs if you do reopen in the summer? Do you have any special programs that people can come to?
We do plan to have scheduled programs. At this time, I don't want to give times and days and dates just yet, but that information will be located on both of the websites that you see, mps.gov/OKCI and memorialmuseum.com. You can also check out our social media and the memorial social media for upcoming information. We hope to offer some guided tours and ranger talks throughout the summer.
Great, thank you. So well, it looks like we don't have any more questions, so we are going to go, but thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope that you are able to come to the Memorial Museum when it reopens. And thank you again so much for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.